I don't need you, Suppy. I don't need you.
We're at that point in the build where it's a bunch of little things. I'm gonna be starting the transmission tunnel, which is gonna be very interesting. And you are?
Yep, so I got the radiator in. We actually have a fan shroud and a fan from the original car. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that up and modify it so we can put it onto our radiator. So that means I gotta make a shroud. On top of that, I got Kody cutting out the rest of the rear end because we've test fit it. He's gonna make all the arms and everything, clear the chassis, and from there we can start working on a roll cage.
There you go. A lot of work, man.
Yep, let's get to it.
Let's go.
Kody! All right, I got Kody here. He's gonna help me cut out the sections of the frame that we don't need that are interfering with the travel of the floor link. Because everything from this point back doesn't matter. It's just holding up the body. Basically, to sum that up, Alex doesn't want to do the dirty work, I gotta do the dirty work, and I gotta cut half the car apart. That's right.
All right, more stuff came in from direct connection. It looks like it's gonna be the ECU, the harness, and all this other good stuff. So let me check it out. Transmission computer, engine computer. Oh, it comes with a 202s, a controller, and a harness. Looks like we got everything.
We just put the rear end back in. Everything looks awesome right off the bat. We got a good pinion angle. And what I'm looking at right now is the panhard bar. So if you don't know, you got 4 links. Our links are parallel, which means that the rear end, without any kind of fifth arm keeping it from going this way, it's just gonna shift back and forth when you're driving it like this. Can't have that. That's what a panhard bar is for. And yeah, hopefully get it done by the end of the day so we can get the rear end out and finished. So I just cut out the brackets for the panhard bar. Real simple, flat plate with a little nice reinforcement piece. We're gonna bolt the carrier into the housing, and then this is gonna be bolted onto the carrier, just like that. And then the panhard bar is gonna bolt to this tab, and it's gonna go off to the frame rail, which is gonna be over here. And then after that, I'm gonna weld these little pieces on, little rectangular braces. These are gonna go onto the back of the upper link bars just to keep them nice and square. A little cheap insurance, rather be safe than sorry. So I'm gonna weld them now.
It has been a very, very long day. We got a lot of small things done. I've been chipping away at that tunnel that's been kicking my butt for 2 days, and Alex made a bunch of progress.
That's right. As you can see, we got the radiator mounted, looks great. Still gotta do the top mounts, but it's in there exactly where we need it and it fits. Other than that, I got the rear end all sorted out and we're ready to send the housing out to J&S Gear to get the third member put in. And then other than that,
we got Angelo.
We got Angelo back.
Angelo finally finished the job that we had on the other side of the shop, and he's coming in to do the roll cage. So big visual changes coming up.
We gotta build a custom fuel cell for this guy. It's a drag car, so I'm building a fuel cell right here on the right side of the engine bay. What I'm gonna use is I'm gonna use a Holley in-tank pump unit. This one's awesome, it's brushless, and it has way more flow capacity than we actually need for this current iteration of this engine. So the plan is, I'm gonna use this guy. I'm gonna make a little sump on the front here. I already got the 3D scan ready to go, so I'm gonna go ahead and start designing this guy.
Angelo's inside finishing up the roll cage. In the meantime, I'm working on the dashboard. We're gonna keep the stock dash, but only the top half of it, so the bottom half all goes away. And obviously, we don't have heat or AC, so all the internal vents are going away. This way we can continue to work and we're not all fighting for the same space.
So the cage is put in, the main hoop's all tacked in. Now we're gonna put the harness bar in.
In an effort to save some time, we're gonna run a stock seat. But when we had it mocked in there, we put this piece of tape. That determines where our harness bar is at. That's important because if it's too low, you're kind of submarine into the seat and you kind of compress your spine, break your collarbone. And if it's too high, what happens?
It's gonna get ugly.
Yeah, you'd be flopping around. But that's why the harness bar height is super important in a car. And per NHRA, it has to be 1 piece. So that's what we're doing.
Dude, this thing is stuffed in there. Last time I was here, this thing was just a bare shell.
We all remember Ron, right? He's our wheel guy. He's gonna measure up and get us a set of wheels for this project.
What I think I'm gonna do, just because of the time constraint, is use the front wheels as they are. Basically, the wheels that you had, the Motegis, are non-staggered, so we'll just use 2 of those as the fronts, assuming that we still have clearance in the wheel wells. And then I'll build probably like a 15 by 10, depending on tire size, obviously. Build like a 15 by 10, 17 by 10 with a deep lip in the rear that will allow you to use drag radials or slicks or whatever you're gonna run. It'll look beefy, but then it'll still have kind of the original look that the project had. So I'm excited to see this thing come together.
So are we, man. I want to drive this thing already.
Oh, you want to drive?
I don't know. That's why we're putting the cage in. You want to drive?
I was gonna drive.
So I got the fuel cell done. I'm about to install our nice little Holley in-tank pump. So what this is gonna be for this car, it's gonna be a lift pump. What that means is that this pump is going to feed a direct injection pump. The direct injection pump is actually mechanical, and what that's gonna do is it's gonna bump the pressure up for the fuel to an extremely high pressure. I think it's like 1,000 pounds plus. It's a lot.
It's a new day and we have a bunch of new parts. Our new steering rack came in. We discovered something with our old rack. It's kind of comical. I'll get into it later. We also got a brake pedal that we have to mount in the car. And what do you got left, Alex?
Well, yesterday I went ahead and finished up the fuel cell. I did the majority of the plumbing on it, but I'm just waiting on a couple fittings. So while I'm waiting on those, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the intercooler system. I gotta make the reservoir box for that. So while I'm doing that, Angelo's finishing up the roll cage. He should have that done today. He should have that done today. But other than that, Suppy's gonna go ahead and keep working on the doors and a couple other things, right?
Yeah, I'm working on doors, finishing up, stripping them out. I'm gonna start wiring the front doors to get the windows to go up and down. While everybody's crammed inside the car, I figured I'd be outside, trying to get all the little things done as much as possible because we're running out of time. So we have to utilize our time correctly.
That's right, we only got about 3 weeks-ish, so we gotta make the maximum of every second we have.
So let's get going.
Yep, let's go.
All right, so what we discovered is the steering rack is actually backwards. The steering arm was in the back. And then since we switched the hubs, the steering arm to be the front, the rack became backwards. We didn't realize that until we got it in the car. So if you turn left, the steering rack will go to the right because it was backwards. So we had to get another steering rack. So if you look at it here, look, turn to the right, it goes left. If you turn this one to the right, it should go right. See? I'm very glad that we caught it early because it would have been quite embarrassing to steer the other way.
I'm finishing up all the bends for the intercooler reservoir. See that? That's the shape that it's gonna be. Gonna have the cap just like that. It's gonna be really cool because the cap is gonna come out of a hole that's already in the bumper. So it's gonna look super factory. But yeah, like I said, finishing up all the bends, and then I'm gonna go over to the welding table, tack them all together, and we'll test fit this bad mamma jamma in the car. So we're just test fitting the intercooler reservoir right now. Fits really good, just like I designed it. I just need to cut the radiator cap portion off of the radiator. We don't need it anymore. That's the only spot that's hitting. But as you can see, you can get to the cap very nice and professionally. And God, I hope the hood close. I hope the hood will close. The hood will close. The hood will close. Prop.
It has been a very busy week. Motor mounts are finished, transmission mounts finished. The rear end got fully welded and back over at J&S Gear to get all the parts put back into it. We solved our steering rack issue. We noticed that it steered backwards. We got a new rack, fixed that, mounted up, so now it steers in the right direction. I also started the transmission tunnel, which is gonna be a very, very long process. Catch us in episode 4 when the rear end comes back, the cage gets put in, we do some wiring and some plumbing.